conference will now be recorded.
Fast reading. It is Thursday, February 3rd. The Harwich Community Preservation Committee, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GLC 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Town of Harwich Community Preservation Committee on Thursday, March 3rd, 2022 at 6 p.m. will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with the right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Harwich website, www.harwich-ma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so in the following manner on Channel 18 or by watching the simulcast at http://harwich18.byn.dns.org/cablecast/public/live with a capital L.ASPX ? Channel 1 space B=1. No in-person attendance of the members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of Harwich's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. The end.
Okay, so we're out of the working session and we're back into regular session. I'd like to open the public meeting again to make sure we're doing this correctly. Can I have a motion and a roll call vote, please?
I motion we open the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. John Ketchum.
John Ketchum, aye.
Mary Maslowski.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Elizabeth Harder.
Elizabeth Harder, aye.
Kathy Green.
Kathy Green, aye.
Carol Ridley.
Carol Ridley, aye.
Robert Doan.
Robert Doan, aye.
And David Nixon, aye. Is there any comment from the general public? Hearing none, I'd like to approve the minutes of the CPC for January 20th, 2022. Is there a motion?
David, I move that we approve the CPC minutes from, what was the date? January 22nd? January 19th, 2022.
Correct. Is there a second?
January 20th. I'll second.
Okay.
I'll second. Oh, wait.
No discussion? Roll call vote. John?
John Ketchum, aye.
Mary?
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth Harder, aye.
Kathy?
Kathy Green, aye.
Carol?
Carol Ridley, aye.
Bob?
Robert Doan, aye.
And David Nixon, aye. All set with that, Jan?
Yeah, I'm just going to correct it, Mary. You said the 19th. It's actually the 20th, but I don't think it's a big deal.
Thanks, Jen.
Okay, we clarified that. All right, now discussion and possible voting for 2022 CPC funding requests. There were 10 applications submitted. R9, the Harwich Headwaters Drive Bikeways Crossing Lights Project, and H3, beauty, Harwich Center, it should be beautification of Harwich Center, were withdrawn. So R9 and H3 were withdrawn. Now, the next thing is, can I have a motion to vote the land bank debt service?
So David?
Yes, ma'am.
Before we do a motion, would you like me to share my screen so that people can see what I had drafted as potential motions? They're literally done in order. So the funds that they come out of are literally because of the order in which the applications were numbered. I did do a motion for every application. Doesn't mean, means nothing more than I went in order. So if you'll let me share my screen, then people can at least take a look at them, read through them, and then we can go from there.
Okay, go ahead, Mary.
All right, so just to go through them in order, the first is the land bank debt service. The second was a suggestion for an amount to put into administrative expenses.
I don't see anything.
I don't see anything yet, Mary.
So I just shared my screen.
No.
Okay, let's see. Let me see. Oh, here we go. Now do you see it?
Yes.
I see, yes.
Okay. So let me just move a couple of things. I'm going to move some things so that people can read. All right, so the first is
Mary, can you expand that? Because I'd need a magnifying glass to see it.
well, let's see. If I can shrink things. Is that better?
Yep.
Yes.
So the first motion is to address the land bank debt service that is owed for this upcoming year. The next, I was proposing $60,000 for administrative expenses, keeping in mind that, we had a request for specifically for administrative expenses as well. The next was the next application, which was the East Harwich Gravestone Preservation Project. Following that is the part-time housing coordinator. Let me know if I'm going too fast for anybody.
Well, that's fine.
Following that is the housing, Harwich Affordable Housing Trust request for the $500,000. That's split into 3 buckets based on the way the balances were running. The next was the Natural Heritage Trail Boardwalk project. It looks like we did have money available, so I did, the next was the $100,000 for the Cape Cod 5 project in Orleans. Following that is the pickleball, again, split up into the anticipated revenues and the existing funds, and then the amounts for the other project.
Okay, so, all right, does anybody have any questions about what they see?
I do, yes.
Go ahead, Carol.
Well, Mary, first of all, thank you for doing this. Would you happen to have sort of tallied the amounts, if all of these motions were to go through, what the totals would be for each category, just so we could, and either what the, and then we could calculate what the balance would be based on the FY.
Sure. So I
23.
did a running balance as I went through. So I have it in my notes. I just don't have it on the screen.
Mhm.
So, but again, my notes go in order of the motions. So
Mhm.
if we do it in order, I can give you easy balance numbers. If we don't go in order, then, so I mean, I can walk through that if you'd like.
So just looking at, I guess I'm just trying to get a sense of, is there a balance of funds left at the end of?
So there
all
will
of
be
these
there will be
expenditures?
a small balance of funds left when we get to. Let's see, when we get to, obviously we're spending out, assuming all of these are passed, we would spend out all of the dedicated buckets. And then what it would come down to is we have, if I did the math correctly from Carol Capola's notes, we have 1.47 million in anticipated 2023. Yeah, so I made that mistake. I've got 2022 undesignated. I have to make a change. Those should say 2023. So
we can't use money in 2022.
we can't use the 2022 money. So those are all 2023 numbers, but I will fix those before we do a vote. So what we had we didn't spend out the undesignated funds starting certified balance of $766,251. So what I took out of that was land bank debt, the $60,000 for the administrative costs. We then took out some money for community, the housing trust. And we took money out for the trailhead project because that has to come out of undesignated funds. The Cape Cod 5, and after the Cape Cod 5 vote, it would come down to having 50,000, almost 51,000 left in that account. So the pickleball would take about 194,500 and change out of the 1.47, and then you would have a final vote of a 950 for the open space purchase. So that would leave you with, out of 1.1, 2, 5. Assuming you spend everything, assuming we spent everything, that would leave a balance of $325,497 in our in anticipated FY 2023 undesignated fund revenues.
May I ask a follow-up?
Go ahead, Carol.
So Mary, I'm looking at the Town of Harwich Community Preservation Fund sheet that Jan circulated to us after the last meeting, and looking at the very bottom of that, where it says estimated FY 23 available for appropriation.
Yep.
That's the operative line in terms of funds available to us.
Correct.
Okay.
So we can only spend the certified fund balance, which is the FY 2021 certified balances, or anticipated revenue from FY 2023. The FY 2022 revenue is actually on hold and can't be spent because we're in the middle of that fiscal year and that money has to be certified at the end of the year. So we essentially do existing and then we jump over existing to anticipated. So that's where I'm coming up with the 1,470,000 came off of Carol's, the bottom of Carol's sheet that it was, let me see. Just give me a second, let me find my notes.
In the meantime, I see you all. You'll get your questions answered.
It was 1.120 million, so $1,120,000 plus another 350,000 was what she had estimated that we could spend in anticipated revenues. So that where I came up with a 1.47.
Right.
Thank you.
You all set, Kara?
Yes, for now, thank you.
Okay. John, you're next.
Yeah, just following up on Carol's questions. I am doing what I have done in the last year or two, which is tracking this stuff in a spreadsheet. And I would just like to verify with Mary the 8 buckets, basically the 21 and the 23 numbers, make sure that what I'm using.
So John, I can tell you what I started with. So in undesignated funds, I had existing certified revenue for 2021 of $766,251.83.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but the other 3 for 21 and
Yep.
then 4.
The other 3 for 21. Open space was 604,486.
Uh-huh.
Historic was 159,672 and 8 cents.
Yeah.
And community housing was $81,270.93. Those are what I had from my notes from the existing certified revenues.
Right, and then for 23, it's 160,000 in open space, historic, and community housing, and now it's 1.47 million. Is that right?
So it's 2 numbers, John. For anticipated revenues, it's 160,000 that we'd be putting in from the bucket, plus it looked like 50,000 each in state revenue income. So that's where I came up with the 210.
Okay, right.
So 210 in each of those 3 buckets. And then yes, the anticipated, what she had was another 350,000 from state revenue. And so 1.12.
I'm sorry, what? 1.1.
$120,000 for the undesignated fund.
Oh, but aren't you adding 350 into that?
Yep, that's how I got the 147 for anticipated revenues.
Okay, all right.
Would it help to put that sheet up, because all of the numbers that Mary's citing are on that sheet that was provided to us, and I think it would be helpful if we could all be looking at those numbers.
Let me just go back to my Gmail account.
While you're doing that, just a quick question. Is it a typo that total estimated FY22 revenue at the bottom should be 23?
Yeah, so if you're looking at the one that I had up, I had corrected it. So the one I had up, I corrected it. The one that got emailed to you had the typo. So if you see the one that I have up, are you looking at the 950?
No, I'm looking at the, landscape. The landscape town of Harwich, Mass Community Preservation Fund that Carol was just going over, where it says, where you've got the 2236 25183, all that, you're the
numbers
FY23 available for appropriation. It says you give the estimated 23 surcharge, the estimated 23 state, and it ends up being estimated FY22. So I'm guessing
that was from Carol. So I'm assuming, yes, that is a typo.
Okay, hold on. I want to go back. Elizabeth, are you set?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I want to go back to Carol. Carol?
Yeah, I'm a little confused, and I'm sorry. Maybe this is it's my first time through this process. But when I saw the sheet provided, I understood a different row indicating what's available for us to distribute. And now with the potential typo, I'm also confused. So if we could,
Let me just try and
I
get
don't
it.
want to hold up the process here, but I want to make sure I'm understanding what Mary's laying out here.
Just give me a second to find the email buried in my emails here. Okay, so this is the most recent form that Jan sent around from Carol. And what's new on it is the bottom here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you see it says estimated FY23 available for appropriation.
Mm-hmm.
That 2.236
Mm-hmm.
is the 1.12, the 350,
Mm-hmm.
and then the fund balance.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think that line that says 1.4 is just a typo, because if you look above it, it's talking the FY23 surcharge revenue, the FY23 state revenue. That total is 1.47.
Mm-hmm.
I think that total estimated FY22 is just an error.
Okay.
It may be the same number as 22 and 23, but then if you clearly see below, she takes the FY21 balance and then gives us the two sums, the certified balance plus the anticipated revenue for the 2.236.
And that is what's available.
Yes.
Yes, that's
So we can spend the line that says certified FY23 balance, and we can spend the what it says FY22, but it really is FY23.
23.
The two lines above it it's a sum of the two lines above it.
So of the total, just to sum from what you were saying before, so the total of 3.7 million, right? If you add all of this up, what I understood you to say before is if all of these funds were, if all of these projects were funded, there would be something like of that 3.7, just 300,000 left.
No, so of the undesignated fund of the
Of
two,
the undesignated.
so we would have spent out the open space account. There would be a small amount left in historic preservation.
Historic preservation, yep.
We would have spent out community housing,
Mm-hmm.
and there would be $497 left of that 2.236251.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
So,
got it. Thank you. Appreciate your patience.
yeah, not a problem. It's confusing.
Kathy?
Yeah, I didn't understand the motion regarding the land purchase doesn't mention using open space funds. It says undesignated.
So, and that, Kathy, that's just because of the order I did it. The open space money had gone to, let's see, the earlier ones, right? It went to, exactly.
There were no other open space applications.
Did I not even use the open space?
I don't believe so.
So, because, yeah, I can fix that. I was thinking we had spent it out. That's what happens when I'm trying to do it right at the end. Yes, we can spend the open space and then there'd be significantly more money, right? So.
Isn't open space where we get the pickleball money?
No.
No. No.
So Mary, are you saying that the last line on Carol's sheet here, where it says under open space, there's 814,000 change?
Yep.
That's what's available for any kind of an open space purchase this year.
Correct.
As
Correct.
is all the other final numbers on the bottom here.
Correct.
Okay. So we should have started with that.
So Kathy, that's my error, because when I was making this change as we were in executive session trying to get the numbers straight, and that's my fault. I didn't go back to the open space I knew there was enough in undesignated funds, so I just took it out of undesignated funds. But of
Okay.
course, I don't
So,
have to do that, so I'm gonna fix that right now.
so to Carol's point, there's going to be a lot more
Maybe a
than.
lot more, correct.
Exactly. So does that clarify things, Carol, a little bit better?
It certainly does.
Sorry, that is
You gotta get down to the
my,
basics, Mary. You gotta get down to the basics.
no, Kathy, completely my mistake in doing the motion, that's all it is. From the FY 2020
Okay.
verified. Open space account. So if we take, let me just do my math. Give me a second.
You know, folks, when we were all together, person to person, there would be 3 to 4 people doing these numbers and would be having a discussion over them with those 3 to 4 people. This platform makes this very difficult. I'm having a tough time reading what's on my screen right now. So
So Mary, what I see you doing,
Yep.
I got exactly the same numbers in the
Awesome.
spreadsheet I have and they add up, so.
Thanks, John. I was longing for your spreadsheet from last year because it made it so easy, and I didn't think to ask for one ahead of time. So to Carol's point, we would then only be taking out of the 1470 anticipated revenues for the undesignated account, we would be taking out $190, again, assuming you're voting everything, $194,503 for pickleball courts, which would leave us with $1,275,497, and then only $135,514 for the open space purchase. So to Carol Ridley's point, that would leave $1,139,983 left in anticipated revenue for the undesignated fund that we haven't touched, that we have been told we could spend. So plenty of money. Which doesn't, I'm encouraging you to vote for everything. I'm just saying that there is a motion for everything and there are funds available for everything, should that be the choice.
okay, does everybody object to going back to the regular screen? And then we can take our numbers. What we have here.
Sounds good to me.
Mary, do you want to release us?
I can unshare my screen.
There we go. So the next question I have is, Mary, have you had enough time, or would you like me to take a recess?
So I think these are ready to go. I can certainly start making motions, and my preference would just be to go from the first on down, just because I think that's the way the balance numbers are going to make sense.
Okay, that works for me. All right, so the first would be the land bank debt service.
So I move that we approve $221,525 from the undesignated fund account, consisting of $221,525 from the FY 2021 certified undesignated fund account to fund the payment of the land bank debt service.
Is there a second?
I second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Okay, bear with me because I'm writing too. All right, roll call vote for this particular motion. We'll start with John.
John Ketchum, aye.
Mary.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Carol.
Carol Ridley, aye.
Catherine.
Kathy Green, aye.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Harder, aye.
Bob.
Robert Down, aye.
And David Nixon, aye.
All right, so the next motion I would make is that I move that we approve $60,000 from the undesignated fund account, consisting of $60,000 from the FY 2021 certified undesignated fund account to fund the Community Preservation Committee's administrative expenses.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
A roll call vote again. We'll start with Robert.
Wait a minute.
Do we get to discuss this? Do we get to discuss this?
Go ahead, Kathy. Yes.
I think 60,000 is a lot. I mean, why do we need so much in administrative funds put aside?
So I personally, Kathy, I think we're starting to use legal counsel. I don't think we really know what that will end up costing us in the long run. It pays unanticipated expenses, and I think we've been lucky to date that we haven't had anything come up, but we're also I'm anticipating the $12,500 coming out on top of that for the appraisals that were proposed. So I think the money's there. I just think it's a smart thing to do to protect ourselves.
Thank you, Mary.
If we don't do it now, it's not like we can go do it in the middle of the year, if something comes up. So.
And we have traditionally taken $50,000 and put it into the administrative account. Carol.
Just a couple questions. So is this cumulative? So if it's not spent in any given year, does it just keep building in that administrative category?
At any given time, we can vote to rescind the money.
Okay, and if I may just follow up, so it's not shown as a category on this accounting provided by the town.
No, it's not.
So what is the current balance in that account, if you will?
There are two accounts, and I'd rather have the finance director give you that number. Kathy.
Yeah, but we did talk about it at the last meeting in terms of the numbers. About the amount that was in the administrative fund.
Okay. I don't remember offhand, so
Okay.
it's reflected in the minutes.
Should be. I don't know. I don't know.
I'll get you that number, Carol. Okay, any other discussion?
However, just to
Go on.
clarify, these $60,000 are coming out of the FY 21 undesignated balance, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's taking a portion of what our undesignated fund monies are and dedicating it to administrative fees.
Any other questions? Okay, roll call vote. We'll start with John.
John Ketchum, aye.
Kathy.
Kathy Green, aye.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Harder, aye.
Robert.
Robert Stone, aye.
Carol.
Carol Ridley, aye.
Mary.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
And David Nixon, aye. Okay, Mary, you have it. The next one's H2. Go ahead.
So the next one I have is I move that we approve $118,800 from Historic Preservation Fund accounts, consisting of $118,800 from the FY 2021 Certified Historic Preservation Account to fund the Town of Harwich's East Harwich Union Cemetery Gravestone Preservation Project.
Okay, the motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. We'll start with Robert.
No further discussion. I'm in support of this.
Okay, Elizabeth.
Yeah, no, we got the money for it, and she was very patient last year, so I'm all in favor.
Kathy.
I'm all set.
Carol.
I support this, and I just reiterate, the comment about just ensuring ongoing maintenance, if that can somehow be communicated.
Carol, would you please lose the word maintenance from your vocabulary? Mary.
Okay, sure.
So I'm in support of the project, and just as a point of clarification, this expenditure would leave just under $41,000 in the certified FY 2021 historic account.
Thank you, Mary. John.
Nothing
sorry.
further.
50,000, where are you getting them?
Hold on, Mary. Hold on, Elizabeth. John, I didn't hear whether you.
Nothing further from me.
Okay. All right, Elizabeth.
You said how much is going to be left?
So in the FY 2021 certified account, so the certified funds, the current balance in historic preservation is $159,672.08. So if you subtract the $118,800, that gives you $40,872.08.
Well,
That's what I'm saying. There is certified money available plus anticipated revenues.
right. I thought we took all the money from the total estimated FY23 available for appropriation.
Elizabeth, I couldn't hear you. You broke up.
Hold on for a minute, Mary. Elizabeth, you're breaking up terribly.
Are we not
Here we go.
taking? Aren't we taking the money from the final line of estimated
No.
available for appropriation?
No, we were told, if I may, David, we were told my first year on the committee, we had to actually revote. And we were told at the time that we were supposed to designate whether it was certified funds or whether it was anticipated revenues. So that's why it's designated that way in the motion.
I get it now. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Not a problem. Thank you, Elizabeth. All right, and it's a yay. So there's a motion on the floor, a second. Discussion has happened. Let's go for a vote. Let's start with John Ketchum.
John Ketchum, aye.
Kathy Green.
Kathy Green, aye.
Elizabeth Harder.
Elizabeth Harder, aye.
Mary.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Dawn. Carol.
Carol Ridley, aye.
Robert.
Robert Stone, aye.
And David Nixon, aye. Okay. Are we caught up, Mary? You
We
all set?
are. So
Okay. Jan, how are you? Hold on. Jan, are you okay?
Yep.
All right. That's fine. CH4, Mary.
So the next motion I have is I move that we approve $50,000 from the Community Housing Fund account, consisting of $50,000 from the FY 2021 certified community housing fund account to fund the town of Harwich's part-time housing coordinator position.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Robert Doan, second. Discussion. We'll go to the board members first, and then we'll talk to the contributors. Carol,
No further comment. Thank you.
John,
Nothing further.
Mary,
I said my piece at the last meeting.
Kathy.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we had gotten any additional answers to our questions that we submitted.
Okay, now Dawn, you've got the floor, Dawn.
Yeah, I'm not, this is not Don who's your liaison. This is Don, the vice chair of the Housing Trust. I found out after I spoke with your chair today, Mr. Nixon, that Joe unavoidably had to be at a joint meeting with Monomoy School District in Chatham tonight. So, and you'll also hear some narrative in the next one too about implications because the Board of Selectmen hasn't had its major budget meeting yet to go over articles. But I can answer what I can answer. So if you have individual questions, I'm taking off my liaison hat right now. And I also brought along with me Brendan Lowney, who is a major force on the Housing Trust. So between the two of us, we hope to answer some.
Okay, Mary.
So David, I thought we got a, I thought Jan circulated something with all the expenses that were paid by the Affordable Housing Trust.
Right.
With the
We
fund
did.
balances and the
We
expenses.
have the yes, we have that document. Kathy.
I don't have those questions in front of me that we had done up, but I think that one of them was whether the trust anticipated that this was going to be like a repeat ask every single year, or was there any indication that this was going to be something that the town would start funding, the coordinator position we're talking about?
Go ahead, Don.
Actually, let's go back. Except for Carol, you guys have heard this discussion before. The answer is no. We don't anticipate it to be repetitious. It was mainly the promise I made to you last year that precipitated this being asked this way. We no longer contracted with a vendor to provide the service. We feel that it's really important to have some line of responsibility built in or baked in the cake, if you will, for this position. It's anticipated to be put under the town planner for management for this year. And once we get rolling, which spills into the other question that you asked, which was a good one, Kathy. We can't pay benefits out of CPC money. So we're not asking for benefits. The town's already going to supplement them this year. And the anticipation is that in the following year, we're going to fold this back into something that it's a town responsibility without the CPC's involvement.
Okay.
All set, Kathy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I thought is the coordinator position going to be on the ballot this year as a town position, as a new position, or is next year it's still going to be an off the books, part-time consultant position?
Elizabeth, it's not a consultant. This is going to be a town employee this year with this money. As I said, this was going to come up. The Board of Selectmen has not even taken up the budget or the warrant articles for this coming year. So we basically need this to buy time to create, because this position has to be voted to be approved at town meeting as part of our staffing plan. We can't get it into town government until that happens. So we're anticipating this being a bridge. Right now, we have no staff support whatsoever. We didn't renew the contract.
That's what I was asking. You anticipate this position will be on the town warrant this spring so that next year it will become a real position. And we won't be paying. Okay.
All set, Elizabeth? Mary?
So, Don, through you, Mr. Chair, to Don, the position's been advertised, I believe, at least as an interim, if not a full-time position, probably subject to appropriation, I would assume. But it is on the town's website as already an advertised position for the town.
Yeah, Mary, you're right. And we had to do that in anticipation of being able to make some sort of move when the money became available. Doing it this way, we can jump the budget if it's approved as a CPC appropriation, which would allow us next year to actually fund it. I've actually also asked them to explore the possibility that ARPA might be an appropriate funding mechanism for this, failing you folks supporting it. But the central question that Elizabeth had, and that you guys have all had for the past few years, is who's controlling this thing? So I followed through on the promise that I made that we weren't going to keep contracting with a vendor where we really weren't sure about what was going on outside of work hours. It's folded in. It's not going to be something that we anticipate asking for again. And unless we ask for it this way, we can't be sure that we're going to be able to start using that position. We did not result in a fill, Mary, so far. It's still on a recruitment.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mary.
So just one follow-up, just a comment for me. I think it's pretty traditional across the Cape that these housing coordinator positions are funded with CPC funds. I think it's a valid expense of CPC funds. So I would not be in support of contracting it out to a third party any longer. But I certainly do support it as funding the base salary of a housing coordinator. I think it's where the community housing funds are available with CPC. I certainly don't have a problem with that as an employee.
You all said, Mary?
I am, thanks.
John?
Nothing further, thanks.
Carol?
I'm all set, thank you.
Robert?
I'm all set.
Okay. Dawn, to you, the only question I have is, if any of the funding is not used, will that get returned to the Community Preservation Committee?
In this area, it will be. I'm not anticipating that'll be the case, but for this particular thing, yeah, because there's an actual thing, a hire that's involved with it. And I'm assuming that if we, as Mary was pointing out, if we return the funds and we had a need and we had to ask for it again, then it would just go through you as an approval cycle.
Okay, thank you. All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there any more discussion on this particular article? Hearing none, I'll move for a vote. We'll start with John Ketchum.
John Ketchum, aye.
Mary?
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Carol?
Carol Ridley, aye.
Kathy?
Kathy Green, aye.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth Harder, aye.
Robert?
Robert Doan, aye.
And David Nixon, aye. Okay. Coming up, CH5, Mary.
So I move that we approve $500,000, I got a typo, $500,000 from the Community Housing Fund account in the undesignated fund account, consisting of $31,270.93 from the FY 2021 Certified Community Housing Funds, $210,000 from the FY 2023 Community Housing Fund anticipated revenues, and $258,729.07 from the FY 2021 Certified Undesignated Fund account to fund the Harwich Affordable Housing Trust.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Robert Doan seconds it. Discussion. We'll start with John Ketchum.
I have nothing further on this. I support this.
Okay, Mary.
I'm in support of it.
Carol?
I too am in support. If I may, through you, Mr. Chair, be interested if someone from the trust, Don or Brendan, could address just generally, how the funds would be utilized, whether it be for development of the, Marceline project or new acquisitions or other purposes.
Okay, I'm going to pose that to Don. You got the
Thank you,
floor.
Mr. Chair. It's a good question, Carol, and we got to roll back to the beginning. When this trust was first established, and I was not the chair at that point, we had sought to develop an action plan, and we had funds that we had hired a vendor to do workshops. They got involved with talking with icons of housing for Harwich. They did 2 workshops, and then COVID hit, and it was broadly felt on the trust that it was a waste of everybody's money and time if the only way we could actually do engagement with the public to create a plan that created priorities was through this mechanism, which is, especially if you got 40 or 50 people on the platform, it would be insanely difficult. Again, I promise you I wasn't going to spend any money that didn't need to be spent, so several people made runs at us under the former town administrator for $100,000 each, and we didn't do it. If you had asked me a year or 2 months ago what we were going to buy, I wouldn't have been able to tell you about the Marceline property. So the acquisition for that was a time and a place that we were offered first refusal when we had to make a move right away. We expended it on property, we expended it on legal counsel, we expended it on an environmental study, we spent it on surveying, we spent it on an appraisal. And right now we got a few $100,000 left, and part of that's because we were able to apportion the cell tower money and other miscellaneous funds, because this wasn't one monolithic purchase. There's a number of different acres in there that are designated under the zoning. And we do have some money that we can build 100% market rate. We can't do that with CPA money. We also are in possession of 7 properties, which we're currently analyzing, and Brendan's been kind of a point on the one on Oak Street. We may wind up flipping that towards the other applicant that you had gotten for the housing on Oak Street, the assisted housing. And should that occur, we're going to need to do more site plan work again, because we haven't even gotten to the point of devoting cash to do a legitimate site plan, for the Marceline property or any of the other properties. I can assure you, though, we have not spent money on any purpose other than that. And when the accounting happens, we're not mature enough that we've gotten into, vendors who are doing anything other than what we're asking. We haven't done a developer yet because we're not even sure what we're going to develop in rank order yet. But the Marceline property is probably our first priority. If we found another property that we could afford, we would jump on it, because the development money is a whole different story. We might be able to, as we go along, structure that so that a developer might be able, over the course of years, to take control of the property after they developed it, and that would be our contribution to a buy down. But we're nowhere near that yet, because we haven't been able to do anything but to acquire that one property. That's the one we're really focusing on, because it's in excess of 13 acres, and it's something that we know we can do. It's all upland. It's by a bus station. It's on a major road. But I can't tell you anything other than that, because part of what we actually want to expend this for is the other 60% of the action plan, which would create priorities. Like, what are we going to do about rehabbing existing buildings? Where does that fit in relation to building new projects? So, and we're still looking at what we could possibly do with Sisson Road. So the only thing I can tell you is we're not at the point of actually hiring anybody. And MHP has gotten us an engineering study of the land compatibility with dropping the foundation on the Sisson Road, but we haven't gotten any further with that either. Is that, I mean, I know that's somewhat confusing, but does that answer, where it's going to go?
Carol, you have the floor.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, I think sort of what I heard is that, you know, there was an initiation to develop an action plan that's been put on hold for a time, but there's a lot of activity both in acquisition and developing the properties that you are pursuing and evaluating and moving along, advancing the properties that you already have control of. And so the funds would be utilized for a mixture of those activities is what I'm gathering from what you just said.
That's accurate.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Elizabeth.
When Kathy said she couldn't remember the questions we asked that we didn't get answers to. One was regarding the 7 properties, there was a question of, did they own it? Did they not? Who had the deeds? Where were they? So we wanted to know if that had been settled. And then for my question is, the potential funding sources doesn't seem to take into account what we passed last year of giving the short-term rental tax to the Affordable Housing Trust, which I would think would be a very hefty chunk of change that should probably be considered.
Dawn?
Yeah. What was the first question, Elizabeth? Because that I got an answer for.
When Joe came to us with this initially, one of our was about deeds and the ownership and like, oh, we do own Sisson. No, we don't own Sisson. So I wanted to know if all of those had been settled, and if you truly own 7, now 8 with Marceline, if you own 8 properties.
That's an excellent question. You could have knocked us over with a feather with the answer of it. The prior town administrator went to town meeting, got a town meeting vote to transfer ownership from the Board of Selectmen to the Housing Trust, and then never followed through by filing it at the Registry of Deeds. The current town administrator has found that flaw. The Board of Selectmen has voted to transfer the properties. The trust has voted to accept the properties, and yes, they were filed. And in terms of, what was the second question? The
anticipated revenue from the short-term rental tax, that now you're getting money from that. And that should be a lot of money that's not listed in your anticipated revenues.
That's true, Elizabeth, but that just got voted in the fall town meeting. DOR hasn't even certified what those funds would represent at this point in time. I fought really hard to get that allocation done, but nonetheless, we're still going to need this. We're down to a few $100,000 now. We can almost do nothing other than do the action plan if we don't get this money, because we don't have anything other than this available in the near term. And Mary would be somebody who would know this. In other towns, they're doing parallel paths of finding buckets of money in taxes and buckets of money in the CPC to try to push this along, because we're trying to be aggressive, but we don't have the capital to be able to develop anything right now.
Yeah, but most other towns give like 200 to 300 to their housing trusts, not 500.
I don't think anybody bought a 13-acre piece of property over this past year. That wiped us out.
Elizabeth, are you all set? Okay, Robert.
Yeah, I'm all set.
Kathy, I already got to you. So are there any other I'm sorry, go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I said a lot at the last meeting about it, but it's been such a struggle to get a completed application. And when I say that, I mean having the answers to the questions just on the application in general, our proposed budget. And if we received 10 applications this year and they were all like the 2 applications for Affordable Housing Trust money, I'm not sure we would be even having a conversation. that's how incomplete the applications were. And we've given many opportunities to get some, specifics sort of fleshed out on the applications. So that's been really disappointing and a real struggle. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Kathy. Any other discussion from the board? From the chair, there has been some problems with communications with the trust, but I have a solution to that. And we will discuss that at the next board meeting. So there's a motion on the floor. There's a second. We've had discussion. I'm going to roll call for a vote. Start with John. John Ketchum.
John Ketchum, aye.
Mary Maslowski.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Carol Ridley.
Carol Ridley, aye.
Kathy Green.
Kathy Green, nay.
Elizabeth Harder.
Elizabeth Harder, aye.
Robert Doan.
Robert Doan, aye.
And David Nixon. Nay. Okay. Next, we have, are you all set, Mary?
I am.
Okay, next we have CH6.
So I think I did these two out of order. I did, so CH6 is the Penrose housing project?
No, disabled shared living workforce.
So I didn't do a motion.
Shared living is the application.
I did not do a motion for that one, so I apologize. That's the shared living was the one in Harwich.
Yes.
So I'm not prepared to make a positive motion on that.
Okay.
Were others looking for a positive motion?
No, apparently not. The consensus of the board is to move on.
Okay.
Thank you for getting me out of that one.
So the next one I had on my list was the Natural Heritage Boardwalk project,
Actually, I've got CH7.
which is the Cape Cod 5.
Yes.
So I move that we approve $100,000 from the undesignated fund.
I'm sorry. Carol?
I'm sorry. Pardon me, sorry. The previous item, the matter for which there was no positive motion, will there be some communication to the applicant, or what would be the next step there? Because I think there was some good feedback from the committee last time, and I just want to make sure that is, conveyed. If there's a mechanism for that,
The chair will take that and convey that information.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Mary, go ahead.
So I move that we approve $100,000 from the undesignated fund account consisting of $100,000 from the FOA 2021 certified undesignated fund to fund the Penrose LLC / Cape Cod 5 housing project in Orleans.
Second.
Oh, motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, who was the second? I'm sorry.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. Okay. Motion and a second. Discussion. We'll start with Robert.
I have no further discussion. I do approve this motion.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Kathy.
I have just a question. We had submitted some additional questions to them regarding the deed in particular, and I know we all got a copy of the answers, and I was wondering if that answered those questions for Carol. She in particular asked about the deed restrictions.
So you asking the question for Carol? Carol, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, Kathy, thank you. I had a chance to look at that information today. I guess, yes, it did. I guess I did see something that I thought was a little bit of a discrepancy, but I may, it was a 31-page deed restriction, so I may have missed a line. But there was, I thought, a 30-year term with possible extensions in the deed restriction document itself. And I think the answer sheet they submitted was 50 years.
Right.
So I was confused about that, but you know, I thought overall it did confirm a 30-year deed restriction with possible extensions.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, I mean, I have really mixed feelings about this. I mean, on one hand, I'd like to support the regional approach to supporting affordable housing. I don't know if it's at top of our list right now. I mean, there's no guarantee of reciprocity. There's no, I mean, we know that everyone that lives in Harwich doesn't work in Harwich and vice versa. But if you currently live in Harwich and you can't afford it, you might not want to move to Orleans, you know, because you want to pull your kids out of school. So I'm not really sure, you know, how many Harwich citizens we're going to benefit. So I still have some mixed feelings about it. That's it.
Thank you, Kathy. John Ketchum.
Yeah, so I guess I have slightly mixed feelings myself. My first reaction to this when I first saw it was, why would we be funding Orleans? But listening to the discussion, you know, I think I'm sold on the general idea that we should be supporting regional housing because it is a regional problem, and one way or another, satisfaction of demand in Orleans will soak up demand somehow or another in Harwich. I do believe that. And it seems like a good project. I've got to say, however, that I was, let's just say, dismayed to be receiving a 31-page legal document the day before we were going to be voting on this. I'm happy that there were people on the committee who were apparently sufficiently up to date on some of these issues to read the document and make sense out of it. But really, that's really bad form, and I don't like it, and I think that should be communicated to those people. I don't know what the extenuating circumstances are, but that's a complicated document. It's a complicated issue, and giving us a day to digest it, some of whom really can't rely on, some of us, me, can't rely on myself to understand such a thing. That's a problem to me.
Thank you, John. Elizabeth.
I'm completely in favor of this, and I'll explain why. Because I understand it doesn't go towards our 10%, and I understand that, you know, we're not technically getting local preference, but I know a lot of people at the state level are working on getting regional plans accepted and you know, distribution of percentages changed. And I also just believe there is no possible way that every town on the Cape is going to be able to solve the housing process on their own. And so regardless of what it gets us, regionalization is the way it's going to end up going. And what we do for them, hopefully they'll do for us.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Mary.
So this one I have mixed emotions about. I am a housing supporter. I think we need housing. Things that disappoint me. One, I don't think we can't assume reciprocity. Nobody from the Orleans Community Preservation Committee has said, "Oh, sure, give them $100,000 and you know, we'll give you money later on." For all of the other reasons that, you know, we're not getting credit. That it's, I don't disagree that some people from Harwich may end up in the units, some may not, none may. But any other year, I probably would not have supported this. But based on the fund balances that we have, I'm willing to put $100,000 towards this, because I think housing has to happen everywhere on the Cape. But I'm doing that with the notion that although I'd love to think that we're going to get reciprocity, I'm assuming that we won't. So again, any other year, if the balances were different and there were a greater number of applications before us, this would have been further to the bottom of my list for support. But tonight I'm willing to support it.
Thank you, Mary. Carol, anything in addition?
Yes, I shared a lot of the reservations and kind of concerns that you all have expressed in terms of this project and some of the information provided, although I did feel that, maybe at the 11th hour, they did come through and answering some of the questions we had asked several weeks ago or a couple months ago, actually. I think what really sold me, though, in thinking about this is recently I've had the opportunity to talk to a number of business owners on the Outer Cape, and to a person, hear again and again how difficult it is to get employees, how difficult it is to retain employees because of the housing shortage. And, it's really having an impact on these businesses in terms of their ability to, sustain their operations and even to think about growing and adding even more jobs for the region. So I do think this is a significant regional problem. We do have the funds available this year, to Mary's point, and so I would support this.
All right. Thank you, Carol. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it would be appropriate to ask someone from the Affordable Housing Trust how they felt about this request.
Questions on the floor? Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, thank you, Kathy. Hoping that somebody would ask. I tend to agree with Mary and with Carol. I see the benefit on the ground, but just so you understand, it's not about reaching an arbitrary 10% number and we're good with the state. That's the divide statutorily about whether we can fend off a hostile 40B or not. At or above 10%, we can say no. I'm more concerned that it's not going to contribute to our statistical numbers, putting aside for a second that it is going to help the local business community. And I mean, legitimately, if you got a car, it's about an 8 or 10 minute drive. I'm really familiar with the ops center property that they're talking about, in that area. I think it's a great idea. They're probably going to sail through because they've already got site density and they're just changing the use. So nobody's going to be complaining that you're going to be building something big near them. But in terms of advancing our own interests to fend off hostile 40Bs where we only get 25% out of it and we have no control whatsoever about the 75% balance, that's a carrot and a stick where the horse doesn't realize they're never going to catch up with the carrot. I mean, we got to get past 10% for our own purposes. I brought it up at the Board of Selectmen's meeting last week. We're going to try to make a run with the legislative delegation to see if they can come up with a way. And I've had conversations with Christy Sanatori about this too, directly, about them presenting a united front to the legislature that we're different demonstrably because we have the Cape Cod Commission. Nobody else in the state does. They've recognized our differences and its value to the state, but they've got to do something to allow the area to be treated, as Elizabeth said, to be treated as a region. So where we are right now, it doesn't get us anything other than, yeah, we're going to help some people that really need a place to live. That's really, if that's your divide and you've got the money, then my personal feelings, because we haven't voted on it, are, yeah, take a gamble on it. But I wouldn't be guaranteeing ourselves that we're going to get anything in return because they're going to wind up having to pursue I know they want to do the underground plaza too at some point. They're going to have to pay attention to their own development requirements. So I doubt we're going to get anything in the future. Even as a trust, we're not going to see any help from that.
Kathy, you all set? Okay. You folks all know where I stand on this. I understand tax credits again. I don't understand housing credits. To me, there's something there that's real, that's going to be actionable. They've got a process in place. They're going to follow through whether we give them the money or not. but if it helps put people in housing, I think that's what our one of our tasks is as we support the trust. So I'm all in favor of this. Okay, I've said enough. Let's go for a roll call vote. We'll start with John.
John Ketchum, aye.
Mary.
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Yeah, Carol, I'm sorry. Carol.
Carol Ridley, aye.
Kathy.
Kathy Green, aye.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Harder, aye.
Robert.
Robert Doan, aye.
And Dave Nixon, aye. Okay, going on to the next.
So the next item I have, David, is the
Holly,
Natural Heritage Trail Boardwalk project.
you've got the floor, Mary.
I move that we approve $75,000 from the undesignated fund account, consisting of $75,000 from the FY 2021 certified undesignated fund account to fund phase 2 of the Natural Heritage Trail Boardwalk project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Jan, did you get that? Okay, let's open it up for discussion. We'll start with Elizabeth.
I'm all in favor of this. I can't wait till it's built.
Thank you, Elizabeth. John?
Yeah, I'm in favor of it. No further comment.
Mary?
I'm in favor of it, particularly the fact that it's going to provide some additional accessibility. So
Carol?
I'm all set. I support this.
Kathy?
Okay, well, as you know, I was not that much in favor of this particular project, but I will let you know that I reached out to the director of the Harwich Conservation Trust and asked if they wanted to show me the site and sort of explain to me what their proposal was. And so I walked the Bank Street bog yesterday in the snow and walked over to the proposed area where they're proposing that the Boys Brook be, sort of it's altered to reflect historic information, etc. And I did speak with Mike Locke about the $2 million that had been allocated by the town voters for the eco restoration project, and how that sort of like segued into this. And one thing I found out was that there was no accommodations made for public access, or to increase to make the public access accommodations in that $2 million. So to that point, I am leaning more in favor of supporting the project.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
Elizabeth?
I already said how I'm in favor and can't wait.
Robert?
No, I've reviewed the project. I know what's going to happen over there, and I am in support of it.
John? You're all set? Okay. So we have a motion on the floor, second, discussion, roll call vote. We'll start with Carol.
Carol Ridley, aye.
Mary?
Mary Maslowski, aye.
John?
John Ketchum, aye.
Kathy?
Kathy Green, aye.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth Harder, aye.
Robert?
Robert Doan, aye.
And Dave Nixon, aye. Okay, the next one is R10, Mary?
Pickleball.
Pickleball.
So I move that we approve $245,500 to fund the undesignated from the undesignated fund account, consisting of $50,997 from the FY 2021 certified undesignated fund account and $194,503 from the FY 2023 undesignated fund anticipated revenues to fund the Town of Harwich pickleball project at Brooks Park.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Kathy, second. Discussion. We'll start with Robert.
Yeah, no, I've expressed my support for this, and I think there is a tremendous growth in pickleball, and it definitely is great because it's good for all ages.
Thank you, Robert. Elizabeth?
Yes, I'm fine with it. I mean, pickleball courts can be used for other things if the pickleball craze dies, so it's fine.
Okay. Thank you, Elizabeth. Kathy?
No additional comments.
Carol?
I'm all set. I support this. Thank you.
Mary?
I'm in support of the funds to extend the pickleball, and to Elizabeth's point, they can certainly be converted back into tennis courts or basketball courts or whatever else. So I'm in favor of the
John.
article.
Thank you, Mary. John?
Nothing further.
And I'm the chair, so I'm not going to comment on this particular one. Okay, we're up for a vote. All those in favor, roll call vote. Robert?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Kathy?
Kathy Green, aye.
Carol?
Carol Ridley, aye.
Mary?
Mary Maslowski, aye.
John?
John Ketchum, aye.
And David Nixon, aye. Okay. That concludes. Mary, can I make a request?
Sure.
Can you send me, is there any way to get a paper copy?
Yes, I should be able to email it to you tomorrow.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
I do well with paper. Electronic is, anyway. Any other questions from any of the board members? Anybody want to revisit an article? Are there any questions whatsoever?
So we're not done yet, David.
Yeah, we have one more.
We have two more.
What do we got?
You need to report out of executive session.
You mean the big one?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can report out of
ahead.
executive session.
Go ahead.
So I would suggest that you can report that the restriction that required the executive session is no longer in place. You've been informed by that through a board member, through information from the applicant. So you can now discuss the article application from the town of Harwich and the Harwich Conservation Trust.
Okay, I'm chasing down the number as we speak right now. All right, so I don't have the designated number on that. Do you?
OS1?
Article number?
OS1?
OS1.
Okay, all right. So discussion on US1.
So, David, if I may, I think it would be appropriate for the applicant to speak to the article so that the general public would know what the article is before we do the motion.
Okay, that's
If that makes sense.
yeah. Kathy?
Yeah, I'd be glad to speak to that. Since this application,
And Kathy, one more. When you give an explanation, will you give the explanation to why it's no longer an executive session?
sure.
Thank you.
This application was at the request of the town of Harwich and the Real Estate and Open Space Committee. This involved a land purchase, which was under negotiations and therefore had to be handled in executive session up to this point. The P&S has now been signed and therefore it can be more public. This project has been called the Spruce Woods Project, and it is a request for $950,000 that would go towards the purchase of a conservation restriction by the town of Harwich. Additional funds will be raised by the Harwich Conservation Trust, who will be the owners of the property. This is for 75 acres of undeveloped land off of Spruce Road, located within the Six Ponds District of Critical Planning Concern, and it will be used for water quality protection, conservation, and passive recreation purposes.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Any questions by the board? We'll start with Carol.
Kathy, could you also speak to the potential for reimbursement? Because I thought that was another significant point.
Sure. There is a grant through the state. It's called the Land Grant, LAND, that we hope to apply for. And that would reimburse, if it was awarded, it would reimburse up to $400,000, which would go back to the Community Preservation Act funds.
Thank you, Carol. Any more questions, Carol?
No.
Elizabeth?
Thank you. I thought we were told that the $400,000, however much that would be, could be potentially gotten from the land fund, would go to the conservation trust that's buying it, not to us.
No, it's a grant that is reimbursable from the state, so it's reimbursable to the town of Harwich.
Right, not reimbursable to the CPC.
Well, it's CPC funds are being used for it, so they would go back to the CPC funds. That's the way it's been done in the past.
Okay.
David?
Mary?
I do think it does look like Michael Locke is on if he wanted to comment.
In this case, yes. Michael, are you available?
Yes.
John, can you?
Hi,
do it?
everyone. Kathy is correct that the local acquisitions for natural diversity grant from the state allows a maximum reimbursable amount of $400,000, and that would reimburse the town's authorization if your committee votes a positive recommendation, if this advances a town meeting and voters approve $950,000 request. It would reimburse the town $400,000. So the net cost under this scenario would be $550,000. And Kathy's also right that the funds would return to the CPA fund.
Thank you, Michael, for clarifying that. Elizabeth, any more questions on that? All set? Carol?
I'm fine, thank you. Strongly support.
Kathy?
I'm all set.
All right. Robert?
I'm all set too.
Mary?
So I'm in full support of this project. I think it's going to protect quite a large parcel in the town of Harwich, and I think it's to the town's benefit in any number of ways. So I'm fully in support of the project, and I just to the extent that we've discussed in executive session, I'm thrilled that we can actually talk about it in open session tonight, so that we can start taking a vote on it.
Okay. John?
Nothing further from me. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm in support. So the next step would be to have a motion to approve.
So the motion I have, David, is I move that we approve $950,000 from the open space fund account and undesignated fund accounts, consisting of $604,486 from the FY 2021 certified open space fund account, $210,000 from the FY 2023 open space fund anticipated revenues, and $135,514 from the FY 2023 undesignated fund anticipated revenues to fund the town of Harwich Conservation Trust application to purchase a conservation restriction at the Spruce Woods project.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second it. I'll second.
Okay, Robert, second. Discussion? Any further discussion, Kathy?
Yeah, just a quick point. Mary, did you just say at the end of your line there that this was Harwich Conservation Trust.
I had Town of Harwich / Harwich Conservation Trust. Is there
No, it
that
is,
incorrect?
yeah, it's a request from Town of Harwich Real Estate and Open Space Committee.
Okay, so let me amend my motion to read the 135,514 from FY 2023 undesignated fund anticipated revenues to fund the Town of Harwich / Real Estate and Open Space Committee's application to purchase a conservation restriction at the Spruce Woods project.
Correct.
Robert?
Is that correct, Kathy?
Yes. Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. We're still on this discussion. Carol?
Does this include 12,500 for, no, is that going to be a separate motion?
Yes.
Okay,
All set, Carol?
yes, thank you.
Okay, John?
Nothing further from me. I support this.
Okay. You sure you're all set, Elizabeth?
I love it.
Okay, all right. We have a motion and a second. I'm going to call for a roll call vote, please. Robert Doan,
Robert Doan, aye.
Elizabeth Harder,
Elizabeth Harder, aye.
Kathy Green,
Kathy Green, aye.
Carol Ridley,
Carol Ridley, aye.
Mary Maslowski,
Mary Maslowski, aye.
John.
John Ketchum, aye.
David Nixon, aye. Okay, now, next one, Mary?
So final motion I have is I move that we vote to approve $12,500 from administrative funds to fund the appraisal cost for the Town of Harwich relative to the open space purchase. Sorry, let me fix that.
Open space.
For the appraisal costs for the Town of Harwich's purchase of a conservation restriction at the Spruce Woods project.
Okay, did everybody get that? All right.
Can you repeat that, Mary?
Let me read it
You
one
need
more
to
time.
repeat it. Yeah, start from the top.
I move that we approve $12,500 from administrative funds to fund the appraisal costs for the Town of Harwich relative to the purchase of a conservation restriction for the Town of Harwich / Open Space Real Estate and Open Space Committee's application.
Got that, Jan?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second? That
Second,
was the motion. Is there a second?
second.
Carol seconded. Any more discussion? Kathy?
Yeah, just a quick question. This is not something that's going to go on the warrant article. This is just an internal motion. Is that correct?
I believe that's true, Kathy.
Okay, so do we need to put in any wording in there that says that if the funds are not expended, that they will go back to the administrative fund?
So we can certainly add that if you'd like. So give me a second.
Yeah, because I think there's a good chance that they won't be expending that much money. That original estimate was because we were going to be applying for 2 grants, a federal grant and a state grant, and now they're only applying for the 1 grant.
Okay, what if we say,
So Kathy, does it have to be that specific? Because isn't our general plan to have any monies returned to CPC unused?
Yeah, that's what we always put in the warrant articles, but since this
Right.
isn't in the warrant, it won't be in the warrant. I just
That
want to
doesn't- yeah, I got it.
so what if we say, I move that we approve up to $12,500 from administrative funds to fund the appraisal costs for the Town of Harwich relative to the purchase.
It's also grant writing costs. It's not just appraisal.
To fund the appraisal costs and grant writing costs.
All right, this is too convoluted. I'm gonna back out of this whole motion. We're gonna start clean.
Yep, just give me.
So,
Give me
Rob,
30 seconds.
will you remove your second? Robert?
I did, no, Carol seconded this one.
Okay,
Carol.
Carol, remove your second, please.
Sure, removed.
Okay, let's start with a clean motion. Go ahead, Mary.
So give me 30 seconds, David. Let me finish it.
Yeah. Elizabeth,
It's just an internal expenditure. Can't we just say that we authorize up to $12,500 for their administrative costs and not be so specific?
Mm.
Robert,
Yeah.
So Dave,
buddy, John.
my understanding here is that the intent is for this money to come out of the $60,000 we already voted for administrative funds. Is that correct or not?
No.
No, in addition to, go ahead, Kathy.
This is in addition. So this
It's
is,
gonna come out as they did, which will be soon. They're gonna need to pay for the CR appraisal soon in order to apply for the land grant. And then the grant writing. The grant has to be submitted by July. So, the funds, may be used before June 30th. So we need to make sure we have the funds available if they need them now. So it would come out of our current admin.
Go ahead, John, ask the question again so she understands.
oh no, okay, it's not necessarily out of the 60,000. It's out of administrative funds that have already been appropriated and approved by town meeting. So it's not going to impact the budget we're talking about here at all. It's an internal thing. I just wanted
Correct.
to know that. Okay. That's all.
I'll take you. When you're ready, Mary.
So David, I'm going to rescind my prior iterations of the motion, and I'm going to start from scratch. I move that we approve up to $12,500 from administrative funds to fund the appraisal costs and grant writing costs for the town of Harwich relative to the purchase of a conservation restriction pursuant to the town of Harwich / Real Estate and Open Space Committee's application.
Okay, the motion on the floor, is there a second?
I second.
Kathy seconds. Discussion again. Robert,
No further discussion for me.
Elizabeth. Kathy,
I'm good.
Carol,
All set, thank you.
Mary,
All set?
John,
Nothing further.
and I'm all set. So, motion on the floor, seconded, roll call vote, starting with John Ketchum,
John Ketchum, aye.
Mary Maslowski,
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Carol Ridley,
Carol Ridley, aye.
Kathy Green,
Kathy Green, aye.
Elizabeth Harder,
Elizabeth Harder, aye.
Robert Doan,
Robert Doan, aye.
Dave Nixon, aye. Okay. So that concludes where we need to be. You're welcome. Okay, where are we? I'm gonna go to the end of this. Old business. Elizabeth, I got your report. I haven't had an opportunity to go through it yet, but that will be on the agenda for our next meeting. Also, I made reference to a discussion about the housing trust. That will be on the agenda for the next meeting. Is there anything anybody else wants on the agenda? Okay, we have to set a date for that time, for the next meeting. So, crack open your planners and see what we have. Jan, what's recommended?
Next Thursday is the 10th, the following Thursday is the 17th, or the 24th. The Olympics are over by the 24th.
Okay, anybody for the 24th?
Do whatever you want.
Is this February or March?
February, this month.
Do we
Kathy?
have something to deal with in February?
Well, so you feel we need another meeting in February?
Yeah, because yes,
Okay, and I'd like to see us keep the same meeting schedule that we've been having, which is the second Thursday, personally.
so that's the 10th.
Right.
And I
Okay.
just need to request the town if that's kosher with them.
Why?
Because they don't have the agenda today and they wanted today before noon to have the meeting next week. And Mary said last meeting, I just asked.
Okay. All right, we go from the 10th to the 17th then.
No, I said I can ask. I just don't.
Oh, you have, I think my reference was you did ask.
No. Mary said that even though it's town policy, that they want the agendas and the meetings set a week before the meeting, every Thursday by noon, all meetings need to be in for the following week. 48 hours is the state regulation. And if I ask, maybe they'll say, okay. And that's what I'll do if you want it on the 10th. And I can tell you all tomorrow if the 10th is a go.
I'm not getting involved with town hall. We're gonna make it 17th. Can everybody make the 17th? I don't see any objections. So the 17th of February will be our next meeting, 6 o'clock. So the next question I have is, does the board want it virtual?
Yes.
Yes.
Is full agreement on that? Okay. So, is there anything else anybody would like to discuss? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There is Kathy second. All in favor?
Aye. Oh,
Roll call. John? John's aye. Kathy?
Kathy Green, aye.
Carol?
Carol Ridley, aye.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth Harder, aye.
Mary?
Mary Maslowski, aye.
Robert?
Robert Stone, aye.
Dave Nixon, aye. Thank you for all of you for being patient tonight. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Take care. Good night.
Hi, Janice. I'm just getting off work.
This conference is no longer being recorded.